Welcome back to Polybridge. This episode, I am going to try and show you everything that I've done in World 3. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, and it's quite possible that for some levels where I didn't feel like anything interesting really happened or was built, I may just give you like a 5-second shot of the design and then a run-through of the design in action, because there's really nothing worth saying, and I don't have a lot of time to make this recording, and don't want this video to be an hour long and just full of junk. Ugh, so goddamn busy lately. I hate how real life never respects my busy video game playing and YouTube uploading schedule. Anyway, let's go. So, the name of the level is Loophole, and I think they're expecting you to do exactly this. They're expecting you to make a little looper thing that just allows the car to drive under the plane and then loop up and get thrown back over to the flag. And let's just show how this works. Nothing wrong with that solution. I don't have a problem with it. But looking at this, it just occurred to me, like, aren't there like multiple easier ways to do this? Like, what if you just built a ramp? Just build an easy, simple little ramp to just let the car just drive up to the flag. You don't have to go over here to the right towards the plane at all. Just drive up. Just a ramp. And, you know, if that's somehow not cool enough for you, you were hoping for something a little more dynamic, well, why don't you just build a spring cannon? So, there's more than one way to do this level, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the way that they want you to do it isn't necessarily the best way, or even really that good a way. I mean, the spring cannon, what did that cost me? 6,990? And the max stress was 67%? And yeah, it's a one-use only. It's not like you can use it over again. But yeah, I don't think that they were, well, maybe they weren't trying to encourage creativity. I don't know. Let's move on to the next one. Really not much to say about this. You know, it's sort of your classic tension bridge, or what they sometimes call a banana bridge, because it kind of looks like a big banana. I think it's interesting that I managed to do it with only regular road. Now, admittedly, I have spent a lot of money. I'm sure you could make this much cheaper. And this is also an 11 polygram and a very slow vehicle here. But, you know, whatever. Let's just show you that this works. So it's like $10,000 under budget, and the maximum stress is 80%. I really couldn't be happier about that. This was an interesting one. I admit that I think I stole this solution from something that I saw in the gallery. This is just using cables, because you do have access to cables, and doing kind of a cable-stayed bridge with a strong steel tower right here. Before we check if I did this any other way, let's just run this and you can see that this actually does work. Let's just see if I did this another way, because I want to say this is one that I did more than one way. Yeah, let's take a look. Well, let's take a look at the reinforced road compression one first. Okay, so instead of steel down below, I used reinforced road wall braces and a reinforced road below support with cables. So this is very cheap, and now the cables are going red, but all the other stuff up here, it's all quite green and yellow and a little bit of orange. Let's take a look at the other thing that I did. 3 material hybrid. Oh yeah, okay, right, yeah. So yeah, I don't know, not much to say about it. It's a heavy 14 polygram dump truck. Moves pretty slow, but there's a lot of good things you can do with steel cables, and you can see they intentionally gave you only 2 pieces of steel. So this is a pretty good way to use them. The other way you could use them, I guess, is long wall braces that came all the way down here, and then just a piece of wood or a cable as your... Show you. Show don't tell, clown. So then you've wall braced that node with a very strong brace. Now, you might get tension on that or that. So you might have to put reinforced road in there just to deal with the tension. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with that, so let's just move along. So I'm not entirely sure what they were going for here. I guess the idea was just to sort of force you to use these little underwater points to brace your bridges. I don't think this one was anything particularly interesting. I'm not sure why I did things this way here, but did I make any alternate versions of this? Okay, so I did this a couple different ways. One is, yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking when I started, was just, we'll use steel just to go straight up from these anchor points. And then... I guess, I don't know why I did this one. It's more money, it's a more convoluted design, whatever. Let's just go back to the simpler design. Which also looks like to be the cheapest design as well. So I think the challenge here was, you've got a very heavy 21 polygram liquid hauler truck. You've got a very long bridge, and you do have quite a bit of budget, but you've really only got this one anchor in the middle. So how are you going to make all this work? And for me, the answer was a fair bit of tension with these ropes sort of holding things in place, and also using steel understructure support to sort of shorten the span, if you will. As I seem to recall, I only did one version of this. Oh no, I did a whole bunch of different versions. Well, I wonder what this really low budget one, I guess that's the one that I finally came up with. So let me show you that the lowest budget one does indeed work. Looks like I also tried to use rope instead of cables in some cases. Oh, I found out that I didn't need this rope, it wasn't doing anything. And so I just eliminated that for my good solution. Okay, fair enough. I think that right there was why I decided I didn't need that rope, because that piece of rope broke and the bridge still held. So I said to myself, why do you need that rope? That piece of rope breaks and goes away and the bridge still stands up and still bears the weight of the truck. Clearly that rope is not doing anything for the structural integrity of the bridge. Ah, yes. So let me just play this for you so you can just see what's going on here. And then we'll go back and load up something. The real trick with this one is basically getting all the angles of the takeoff exactly right, so that when the car takes off from each little ramp, that it lands in the right place. As you can see, I've also got springs here, so that when the car lands on the incoming ramp, a lot of the force is taken up and the road doesn't get broken. And then tweaking the angles of these departure ramps to be just right was really, actually very time-consuming. But quite pleased with this. It works very well, and it's less than half the budget. So yeah, very happy with that. And then the other thing is that, does this kind of look like efficient engineering to you guys? Yeah. 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 Exactly. It's exactly what it looks like. I am not above putting a LOLdong in my level. Enough said. So, they just want you to make a tension bridge. So I did. They don't give you steel. So you just have to stack Warren Truss on top of Warren Truss, and... I'm honestly amazed those bottom pieces of wood down there don't break, but they don't. Okay, I was looking forward to this. So, you can probably see what's going on here. You've got a crane, a hydraulic crane over here that can raise this end of the bridge over here. So, it doesn't just pull it upwards, it also pulls it to the left, which means that the center of the bridge is actually going to move to the left when it gets pulled upward. And likewise, the same crane as this one is raising up, this one is lowering down, and also allowing this end of the bridge to not only move downward, but also move to the left and lock in over here. There's of course a lot of much easier ways to do this, but I felt like doing this one with a couple of cranes and moving the whole span both up and down and left and right just to fucking flex. The last little flex is much harder to see, it's over here. I've got two springs attached to a cable that goes back to this anchor point, and these have special triple joints on them. What the springs do is they pull this whole truck backward. The reason is that if you don't pull the truck backward, when the bridge comes down, it hits the top of the truck cab, and it makes it much harder for it to settle down and lock in on this joint. So these springs actually pull this truck backward just enough that when the span lowers, it doesn't hit the truck. And then during the hydraulic phase that the bridge that this truck is about to go up on, these separate and this barrier drops away from the front of the truck. I think I'm over-explaining this and I should just run it so you can just see it in action. Picture's probably worth 1,000 words here. It was actually really hard to construct that. You can see a lot of the stuff in it went red, but I'm really proud that I did, because I wanted to do it this way because this was the way that seemed most interesting to me. Getting the cranes to work correctly was really hard. Figuring out how to pull that truck back took some creativity, so I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. Let me show you a much more boring solution. The obvious solution. So this is exactly what it looks like. It's just a span bridge underneath here, and then two bridges that sort of go up or down to, like cat flaps, basically. They can allow the cars through or allow the cars to go up. Now this one is under budget for whatever that's worth, but I'm much happier with the tilting span where the whole bridge moves, not just up and down, but also left and right. Sure, this works, but it's boring, and in my opinion, it's kind of not very elegant, because you kind of have to have 3 spans, 2 of which move. Just move the whole span. Flex your brain a little bit. Figure it out. I have no idea what was going on here. I guess the theory with this one was that you have an anchor point back here and an anchor point here, but you don't have one right here. So you simply cannot anchor your bridge right there. And it looks like they're... I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm just going to say that I'm not at all proud of that one, and move along. So this is the one that we did last episode, where I mistakenly thought we were in World 1. And as you can see, the big trick here is that, 1, you use reinforced road for your compression members down here on these wall supports, and 2, because you don't have steel, you have to put an additional Warren truss up on top of your other Warren truss, just so that you can have enough strength to resist the mass of this 10 polygram filled with water fire truck. Not much to it. Once you know the little trick about putting a double truss up top, I think you're going to handle that one just fine. Yeah, okay, so this one was actually kind of interesting. This one is one of those ones where it actually took me a lot of tweaking to make it work correctly. An easy way to cheat this one would have been to do that thing like I did where I used either triangles of road or some other kind of spring-based mechanism to slow down one of the trucks. But ultimately I just decided, let's just do this the way that they want you to do it, and just make the ramps that just allow the trucks to jump over each other. Only thing really might be a little bit interesting is that instead of regular rope here, I used wooden rope. And there's no reason to do that. I just did. There are no springs in here. I just trusted that these things here, the static geometry that the level provides you, you'll actually see when the truck over here jumps over, most of the sort of crunch and hardness of the landing comes on this part and very little on this part. That actually is something that took a lot of tweaking to make the truck land hard on the parts of this that are static and provided by the level and can't be broken. So let's just run it and you can see how this works. Not much to it. One truck goes under, one goes over. I did have a lot of problems with this little platform breaking, and I had to tweak this a lot to sort of get the truck to land hard on... So when this truck lands here, watch how the suspension crunches down during this part and then springs back up when it gets over here. That means there's a lot less force on this little platform because the truck is already sort of springing back up off its suspension. I did have problems with that platform breaking at first. Alright, enough said. Oh, yeah. So, let me see if I did multiple versions of this. Okay, so let's start with the obvious underneath hydraulics. So you just build up a steel span support from below, and then this part right here, all the way back to this joint, all of that just levers up to about, I think probably about 45 degrees to let the ship pass. Because steel and hydraulics are both super strong, this bridge is more than strong enough to support both the fire truck and the ambulance. Alright, and then go back and load something incredibly stupid. Let's, first of all, we'll do the RCE propaganda, because I can. And as the name suggested, this is a cable-stayed bridge, where you've got cables coming down from a tower to hold up the pieces of road. And the same kind of hydraulic system as before to lift up the middle parts. The nice thing about the cables is that, although you can't stretch the cable further than this point down, if you move upward, the cable just sags and you're able to... So it's like it prevents the bridge from falling down, but doesn't prevent the bridge from retracting upward. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about, which is, you notice that there's like not an anchor over here. So how do these towers that support the cables, how do they stay up? I used a very dishonest, cheating way. What I did was I ran a cable all the way back here. Then I put pieces of steel beyond the back of this static geometry, and those pieces of steel can't go through the static geometry. Then I ran the steel all the way down here to the bottom. Cables can go through static geometry, so then I ran a cable down here. And so essentially you have an L-shaped piece of steel that's buried 50 feet deep in the ground, holding up this tower and using, you know, the mass of all this earth right here to hold itself up. Way over budget, way silly, but I thought it was a fun way to cheat the system. If you're new to these videos and you don't know what RCE stands for, that's Real Civil Engineer. He's another YouTuber who inspired me to play Polybridge. Sometimes when they make levels that are silly or they want RCE to see them, people will put his initials in the level like that. Tricky anchor there. Tricky anchor there. Alright, fine. Next. Yeah, diagonal elevator. Okay, so this was really fun. When I first looked at this level, I said to myself, hey, this is just a 4-bar linkage. And I'll put the Wikipedia page for 4-bar linkages. Well, I already did that, I think, on an earlier level. So basically I said, this is just a 4-bar linkage. This is going to be super easy. But I screwed up hard. I chose the wrong 4-bar linkage. So in this particular one, the 4-bar linkage is this long steel bar here, this long steel bar here, and the non-existent bar between these two nodes. These steel bars have their pivot held in place by this triangle right here, so I've made a virtual anchor right there. And then the last part of the 4-bar linkage is this wood piece here on top of the elevator, which is why I call this an elevator. And this node right here is further left and below this node, so that when the whole elevator rises up and to the left, this node of the elevator never goes to the left of this node. And that ensures that gravity is always pulling this elevator downward and to the right. And this will matter. You'll see why this matters in a second when I show you the other design where I picked the wrong 4-bar linkage. But for this one, just remember, top bar here, the 2 long legs, and the non-existent link that doesn't actually exist here is your 4-bar. And these 2 long bars kind of go upward. It's unfortunately a little busier than it should be because of the way that I created these anchors down here. If that and that weren't in here, that L-shaped thing, it would be a lot easier to see what's actually going on, but suffice it to say, okay. So that's the right 4-bar linkage. That is the correct 4-bar linkage that you should use. What if you're a moron like me and you chose the wrong 4-bar linkage? Let me show you. Okay, so what if you chose the 4-bar linkage as the non-existent bar between these 2 anchors, this bar right here, and this bar right here? Then you will, well, this arrangement will work barely. Okay, but what if you said to yourself, well, I don't need these triangles here. I can just push up the 4-bar linkage by doing my hydraulic directly to that node, and just pushing that node directly up. Then I don't need all this weird bracing stuff over here. It almost works. This car rolls on here. Your hydraulic begins to push this 4-bar linkage up, and this square turns into a diamond. And this node comes closer and closer to that node. At some point, this node gets close enough to this node, the downward force of gravity on the elevator causes this whole thing to twist clockwise, and this car just falls right down into the water. So the moral of the story here is pick the right 4-bar linkage. Pick the 4-bar linkage that goes from here down to here and here down to here. Instead of picking this 4-bar linkage, because that 4-bar linkage down here is just a recipe for disaster. Finally, I did a triple bar, or I guess I don't even know what this would be, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-bar linkage, where essentially, it's the same 4-bar linkage, except you've got a 4-bar linkage down here, these 2 long ones, and this guy, and then that. Then you've got another linkage up here, sort of like, I don't even know what to call that one. But anyway, these long ones, 2, 3 long ones, they all sort of work in concert to ensure that this elevator stays upright as it moves upwards and pivots and locks in here and lets the Model T through. What a Model A. It's really just another tension bridge. There's nothing particularly interesting to say about it. They give you cables so you have lots of strength to run tension members below. And then I just made some very small, dome-like Warren trusses over top. It's a long span. And yeah, the plane does fly low, and I don't think this is like a... What was that tanker truck earlier? Was that like a 14 polygram? This guy isn't that heavy. I didn't find it particularly interesting. I don't even think I made an alternate version. Yeah. Alright. This one was actually kind of interesting. I think what they're expecting you to do is build a full loop around here. But I didn't really want to. Instead, I just built kind of a curly hockey stick ramp. And then the car jumps up here, comes down here, and it falls through this hole, is caught by this little spring plate right here, and then just jumps over this little gap to get to there. Nothing wrong with doing it the conventional way, I just didn't feel like it. Also, you could argue this is a LOLdong. This one was kind of fun. The idea here is that this limo is going to drive over to here and stop, and then this little blue car is going to drive to here and stop, and then the monster truck has to sort of drive over top of them and get to the other side. And originally, let me make sure I actually have this saved. Yeah. So 49305 and 49299, these are the same design. So my first attempt was just to use under truss made out of steel. I just freehanded it, and I used little braces that go down on the rocks below the surface of the water. This does work. You can see it's quite a ways over budget. And some of the members get surprisingly red. I didn't expect any part of that to get red, because I thought the weight would be distributed over so many different structural members that there just wouldn't be an issue. But no, it still did. It got pretty heavily stressed. Particularly when the monster truck is coming down from a jump off a car. 99.8%. I said, I can do better than that. So then I used arches. And again, this does work, but this member right here and this one right here still got a shocking amount of stress when that monster truck jumps off the car. And so I said to myself, this actually looks really good, but there were just a couple places where, you know, these structural members aren't really strong enough, or almost failing. Maximum stress 97. I said I can still do way better than that. And so that's when I came to this design where instead of doing single pieces of steel right there, I did what I'm going to start calling, Polybridge community calls this configuration a muscle. But I don't really like that nomenclature, because to me a muscle is something that actually moves, it actually exerts a pulling force, and these don't. They're just doubled up compression members. So I'm going to start calling these diamonds or double diamond members, and just so you guys know, I'm departing from the orthodox or usual terminology of the Polybridge community. All right. One last run just so you can see that this stuff here and this stuff here kind of goes orange but not red. Much better. Much more even distribution of stress across the top of the arch. So, I haven't done any of these in World 4, and in fact, I don't even think I've done World 2. Let's take a look. Yeah, so next episode I'll be going back and doing World 2, doing as many of these as I feel like I can. I might actually build some live, who knows, we'll see. My life has been pretty busy, as I said at the beginning of the video, so I don't know when I'm going to get the next video out. In any event, I hope you've enjoyed that romp through World 3. I hope you found some interesting, perhaps novel solutions to some problems that maybe other people hadn't thought of. And I hope that you are staying salty, my friends.